Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for 502 Sports. Hey everyone, welcome to a new edition of 502 Sports. I'm your host, Adam Hitt, alongside Jimmy Nolan and Adam Wilkinson. And gentlemen, we have a lot of sports to talk about today. How are you all feeling?
I'm good, buddy. How you doing?
Doing well, Adam.
Fantastic. Glad to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, we've got a packed show for you today. A lot of topics. We'll get into the Super Regionals. We'll get into the NCAA Settlement, which is going to have a huge change in the landscape of collegiate sports. We're going to get into some high school track and field, high school baseball and softball. Touch a little bit on the NCAA Track and Field Nationals, which are coming up, and then an update on Racing Louisville and Louisville City as well. You guys feeling good about that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, let's get into it. All right, so before we get in here, I do want to shout out to Take Thai for supporting our show. They have given us some promo codes to get discount off of some of the great food they have at Take Thai. So check out our social media pages for the promo code for 502 Sports and drop into Take Thai and get some good lunch or dinner over there with Chris and Ann, who are the owners of the restaurant. So big shout out to Take Thai for supporting 502 Sports. All right, guys. So let's talk about let's talk about collegiate baseball first, but we'll get to high school baseball here in a second. But the Louisville Cardinals, Murray State, are both in the Super Regionals. We've got the Cards are currently playing the Miami Hurricanes in the best of three, trying to get to the College World Series in Omaha. It is being hosted here at Jim Patterson Stadium, which is a bit of a home field advantage. But what are your guys' initial thoughts here? Obviously, they won the first game 8-1 over Miami. They lost game 2 9-6, and then they are currently playing, as we're recording this, game 3 against Miami.
Now, game 1, I thought they looked offensively about as good as they have in a long time.
Right.
Defensively as well, they got themselves in a few jams game 1, but pitching was able to get them out. The pitcher was just throwing heater after heater. He was up in the mid-90s, and it's just hard to catch up to that.
Yeah,
after a while.
I was going to say, to touch on that, I think they were able to get a lot of clutch strikeouts.
Yeah, they were.
To kill any rallies that Miami was trying to put together. And it was just an overall dominating performance.
It was.
Hitting, pitching, defense. Yeah. It was overall, a lot of fun to watch if you're a U of L fan, and something to get excited about as you look to punch your ticket to Omaha for game 2.
Yeah. No, I think Louisville grabbed that momentum early in game 1. Miami had, I think it was bases loaded in the first and ended up getting 2 strikeouts and just grabbed the momentum. Same in the second inning. I think they had 2 guys in scoring position, 2 outs, and then got another strikeout. Miami left a lot out there, but Louisville really grabbed that momentum and then started out, I think it was bottom of the second, back-to-back home runs, and really ran away from the game from there. Miami couldn't recover.
Yeah, and Jake Monroe, for the Cards, had 2 home runs in the game. In the first game, drove in 5 runs. So huge game for Jake Monroe. And then Patrick Forbes on the mound in that game 1 had 9 strikeouts. So it really big opening statement for the Cards. What did you all think about game 2? So this one, Louisville lost that one 9-6. How did you all feel about how that game went? And I think there was a controversial call on that one that we wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel that Louisville kind of did a couple plays where they shot themselves in the foot. Take nothing away from the team to be good, but Eddie King Jr. had a massive game, had a 2-run shot and a solo home run also. It was just all around the offensive output for Louisville early on in that game. Obviously, as you said, Adam, was it a foul ball? Was it not a foul ball? For those of you that don't know, there were 2 outs in the inning. Miami
first and second, I think it was.
First and second.
Yeah.
There was a runner. No, sorry, it was first and second.
Yeah, it was first and second.
And there was 2 outs, and the batter just dribbles the ball up the first baseline. The first baseman charged in to grab it before it went foul, and it looked like he had. He grabbed the ball, he ran back, touched first base. That should have been out number 3. Cards get out of the inning. However, the first base umpire threw his hands up immediately, called it a foul ball. They end up getting a base hit, and then it scores a run, and then the very next batter hits a 2-run home run to put Miami up.
Yeah. I think it's 3-run home run, but
I was gonna say you used to be an umpire. Back
yeah,
in
it
the
was a
day.
long
Like,
time ago. I was just little league, but I mean,
but either way, like, is that the first baseman's call? Like that's another thing. And he looked like he didn't even ask for help from the home plate umpire.
it should be the home plate umpire's call, but there's possibility the runner was, blocking the view of the home plate umpire, so
Right,
kind
but
of
the
defers
same,
to the.
but the same could be said about the first baseman
Yeah.
running in to grab the ball, blocking the first base umpire's view.
Could have, but the way the runner was closer to home plate than what the ball was. So first base umpire would have had a better view of it if that was the case.
Okay.
Not saying that was the case, but possibly. And then I know Dan McDonald asked him to come back out and talk and review. They did. They got together, talk, and still called a foul ball.
Yeah, I mean,
It should be the home plate umpire's call. However, there is possibility that before the game, the umpires get together and talk and say, hey, if the ball comes down there, home plate umpire say, I'm going to defer to the first base umpire, the third base umpire, depending on which way it goes.
is that something that they talk about pre-game, though?
That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe they do. I could definitely see them doing that.
I mean,
But
there's so many different scenarios that they would have to go over in order to do that.
There are a lot of scenarios. It was a very close call from every angle on TV. It looked like it was fair, but they also didn't have an angle straight down the line, so it was
that was
very
the
hard
tough
to
part,
see.
yeah.
Well, and I've looked at several replays, and I will say that the first base umpire was straddling the
He was straddling the
foul
line.
line.
He's got the best view of it.
I think he had the best view.
Did. I don't like the call because
I didn't like it either.
Absolutely, it kept the inning alive. It gave momentum to Miami.
It did.
And
Essentially the same thing. It was reverse of game one, where Louisville had the momentum early in that game, carried it over from game one, and that took all the momentum away from Louisville and went right to Miami, and they scored, I think it was 4 runs overall that inning, and
but
Louisville came back to tie it, but then I think it was the 8th inning, they got another 3 runs and just put the game away.
Well, and another blunder, in the 4th inning, Louisville loads the bases with 2 outs. They bring in a relief pitcher, and he doesn't even throw a pitch. He picks the guy off second, and I was looking. I was like, was it a secondary lead? Like, what happened there? No, he was just really far off from the bag. Like, I understand you want to score on a base hit, but you got to make sure. I mean, it's inexcusable. You cannot get picked off in that spot.
And
It's a great play, though. It was a great play
by the pitcher
by
in Miami
to pull that off.
Even the guy in second, the runner started going toward third, and hopefully to kind of catch the third base runner to go home, and kind of almost like a little league, but.
But
that's also been Louisville's.
You still can't get picked off. I don't care if it was a great play.
No, you can't be picked off.
You cannot be picked off. First, second, third.
You should not be picked off.
You cannot get picked off there with 2 outs.
But with Dan McDonald, ever since he's been here, that's always been Louisville's MO. One of the most aggressive teams on the base path, running bases.
Sure.
But they had the problem in the regionals too. They got picked off in the regionals down in Nashville.
That's true.
It's been that way really since Dan McDonald's come. It's you win some, you lose some, and it was just. Yeah, you can't get picked off there, and the worst timing to have that happen.
I feel like I'm more upset about this than you are. Like I just it's inexcusable to me, and you're right, and you're coming at it with, well, that's just who they are. They like to run, and they like to steal the extra base.
Oh no, trust me. When I was there, I was watching it live. I was not happy.
Did you throw a remote?
I did not throw a
remote. For those
remote.
of you that don't know, our resident U of L fan, Mr. Adam Wilkinson. 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, was very passionate about his Cardinals, still is, but when things didn't go his way or his Cardinals' way, he would like to take out his frustrations on anything that was around. Punch a pillow, throw a remote up against the wall.
It happens.
It happens.
It's the definition of a fanatic. All right, that's what we're talking about.
He's calmed down. He's
calmed down.
He's getting a little gray, and he's just calmed down a little bit,
a little more than a little.
Yeah,
but I was just making sure all remotes are safe, right?
Yes,
okay.
For now.
Oh, for now. Well, that's true. The game.
However many
game
pieces
3's
they
going
were
on
in,
right now.
however many pieces the remotes were in pre-game, they're still in the same amount of pieces.
Did the batteries fly out?
The batteries did not fly out. No, there was nothing thrown.
Well, hopefully Louisville can get up 10-0, and all
It'd
will
be nice.
All remotes will be safe in your household.
Yeah. No.
So what are your thoughts here, Adam? On the we know this game's going on live as we're recording our show today, but it's how are you feeling about the Cards versus Miami in this deciding game 3?
Well, I like. I can't remember the pitcher's name. Sorry. I like who they had pitching. He was out against Wright State. He's a freshman for him. He pitched in the regional championship went
for Louisville.
For Louisville, yeah.
Is that Eberle?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
He went 5 2/3, 9 strikeouts. He's as a freshman, I think he's one of the lowest on the ERA, just over 4. And then, but opponents are only hitting about 250 against him. So he's been doing very well. I think there's only the worst game he's had. He gave up 2 or 3 runs against Wake Forest, who was I think top 5 nationally at the time. But he's been fantastic for him. So I like having him on the mound here. He's got the championship experience in the regionals. So
and it's hard to go against this Louisville offense. Like
Louisville's,
they are built to put up a lot of runs, but they're also built. They can come from behind if they're down 1 or 2 runs. Now, when you start getting down 3, down 4, down 5 runs, it any baseball team is going to have trouble coming back from that, especially at this point in the tournament where they're all quality teams left.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I like the Louisville offense here to go ahead, get them into Omaha, and compete for a national championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for I'm really looking for Eddie King Jr. and Jake Monroe to kind of lead the team here. Just in terms of on the batting side of things, I think we need to see them drive in some runs. Whether it's home runs or driving in guys who get on base. I think we really need to see that here in Game 3. If they can do that, I think they have a good chance to win this game with their pitching staff. So I think they'll be in good shape if they can get some runs here early in the game.
Yeah, and hopefully Louisville
going back to Eberle, like you said, he's almost a little bit of Randy Johnson, and I'm not 6'10", he's 6'5", but he's got the similar arm slot. So coming in from that side, got a nasty left, slider.
Is he lefty?
Yeah,
lefty.
I mean, but similar, almost sidearm, arm slot angle is what Randy Johnson would be, and it can be tough to hit.
Yeah. So this is the just from a statistics perspective, this is Louisville's 10th Super Regional appearance since 2007. And they've advanced to the College World Series 5 times in program history. They're 11-9 all time in Super Regional games, so above 500 there. So that's a good omen here for the Cards. We've got a lot of players. Obviously, Louisville has a lot of players from Louisville, from the 502, right? There's guys from Trinity, St. X, Mayo. There's guys from a lot of the big high schools here in Louisville. I do want to switch gears, though, and talk about the Murray State Racers for a second. They've got a guy who went to Mayo High School. He went to Mayo. He went to Western his first year. He ended up going to community college after that, and then now he ends up at Murray State and really helping them to get to this point. Jimbo, I think you wanted to maybe talk a little bit more about him.
Yeah, Mr. Shuddy, what a performance to get him to the Super Regional. Unfortunately, his first outing in the Super Regional didn't go as planned. He kind of got touched up a little bit, had some control issues. He gave up 2 hit batters, 4 or 5 walks.
Yeah, I think the 5 walks was the biggest thing, but he pitched well otherwise. But I think Duke was pretty patient with him.
Yeah, you could tell that he was having some trouble locating his breaking balls. Both hit batters were off of like curveballs or sliders that just slipped out of his hands, caught the Duke batters, and basically just gave him free passes. I think he'd be the first to tell you that he wasn't as sharp or as he didn't pitch his best game. He definitely did enough to keep it close for the time being, but he wasn't at the top of his game, unfortunately, and they needed him to be. They did.
He is going for he may be able to get that today. Well, if he pitches, he may not pitch today. I don't know if they're calling all of their reinforcements today or not. But the Murray State record for strikeouts in a season is 101, and he now has 97 on the season. So he's got 97. Wow. He just needs to get to 101 for the all-time Murray State record in a season for strikeouts, which is pretty cool.
Well, and like you said, it's an elimination game for Murray State. All hands are on deck. If you can pitch, you got to expect that you could get that call. Obviously pitching 4 innings yesterday may limit what he can do, but there is no Game 3 if you don't win Game 2. So right now, Duke can kind of rest a few arms, knowing that if they lose, they can have a Game 3. But Murray State can't. They absolutely need this game. And even if Shuddy can get him 3 outs, I could see him going to the bullpen and telling, hey, get us through this 6th inning, get us through the 7th inning, get us what you can. We need any help that we can get. We've got to get a win here. Hopefully Murray State can blow up a huge lead, and they don't have to waste a lot of arms. So
Hope not. Yeah, he did pitch yesterday for him, going 4 innings. But, yeah, gave up 5 walks. That seemed to hurt. And 5 walks led to 5 earned runs. And, yeah, so wasn't his best outing yesterday, but.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him come out of the bullpen here.
Give him an inning.
In an elimination game, and you've got to throw your best cards out there if you're Murray State.
If you're going down, go down fighting with your best.
If you get up big, that's even better because then you can rest him today and let him come out of the pen for a couple innings tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he got through that first inning clean. Like I think I don't know if one batter reached a base hit, but anyways, he got 3 relatively quick outs, got out of the first inning unscathed. Actually, I think it was clean.
Yeah.
So all of that, five walks, 2 hit batters, 4 or 5 hits, all in 3 innings. Yeah, that's that's not what you're looking for from your ace, unfortunately.
Right.
It was tough to see because I think everybody here in the 502 is behind Murray State.
Oh, absolutely.
There aren't too many Duke Blue Devil fans in
that's
this
fair.
area.
Yeah.
No, anywhere in the state, there's not.
Yeah. And I mean,
not just the 502, the whole state of Kentucky.
Well, yeah, but it's Murray State. It's still one of our own, know, and it doesn't matter if you're red or blue. We can all get behind other colleges and other programs in this team.
Yeah.
I was bummed to see both Murray State and Western in the same regional. I was really hoping that didn't happen.
I know. How are they going to do that?
Western had such a great year, and they deserved to be in the Super Regional. They just ran up. They just got unlucky there.
Yeah, it was a tough break for Western. They had an incredible year. I mean, I think it was a record for them in terms of wins. Just a great season for the Hilltoppers. But hey, I mean, this is really what we want to talk about, guys. Like guys from the 502. Like, yes, we could sit here all day and talk about the Cards. We could talk about Bellarmine. We could talk about UK U of L rivalry and all those things. But like, what about these guys who are doing good things from the 502? Student athletes who are representing the 502, like Nick, who is representing the 502, went to Male High School. Those are guys that we want to talk about. Those are athletes that we want to talk about, on 502 Sports, and I hope we're going to continue, to kind of do that. That's why we're talking about Murray State here. I know you'll probably get people going, well, hey, why are you talking about Murray State? So because we have guys from Louisville, from the 502, who are on these teams in the Super Regional, which are really cool stories, and we've got a lot of really great guys on, Louisville's team, from local schools as well. But they get a lot of coverage, right? They get a lot of coverage in Louisville. So we want to talk about some of the outliers that don't get all the coverage here. But Murray State, they've got this game. They have to win today against Duke. So hoping that they can pull that one out and force a game 3. Any other thoughts on the Super Regionals, guys? Any team that really stands out to you all as kind of leading the way at the moment with the top 2 seeds not even making the Super Regional?
It's kind of hard to look away from Coastal Carolina. They went into Auburn, and 2 games you beat Auburn, the number 4 national seed. So it's tough. They're the first ones going to Omaha. They're year after year they are a
Coastal Carolina is generally
very formidable baseball program. Yep. And for them to, I didn't know if they'd beat Auburn or not. I knew they'd play them well. But to beat them in back-to-back games.
That's not in Auburn. Was it in Auburn?
Auburn hosted.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's, good for them.
All right. Well, good luck to the Cards and to the Racers as they try to move on here from the Super Regionals and get to the College World Series. We're going to be watching those intently as those games are happening today here on Sunday. Big news, guys. Big news in the NCAA in general, in college athletics. So we had the House versus the NCAA Settlement, which was approved by a federal judge on June 6th, just a few days ago. Really represents, we think a monumental shift in the landscape of collegiate athletics, of how student athletes are, paid to play, or whether they are receiving money for their appearances in, for that team or to go to a particular school. So, it could redefine how we think of the NCAA amateurism rules, and kind of sets up a new era of direct compensation for collegiate athletes. So, just really big highlights here, guys, and then we can get into it. So what they've done is they've approved direct payments from schools in the total of $20.5 million per school annually. That number will go up over the next 10 years, about 4% each year. that money is due to come from media rights, ticket sales, sponsorships, and things like that. So the school can directly, give this money to student athletes as long as they don't go over that cap. And so there's other pieces of this as well. So, we have 502 Circle was set up as the NIL collective for the Cards, right? So they've been supporting and raising funds to help pay players to get them to come to Louisville. And this new situation is going to have new NIL regulation and sets up a clearinghouse, which is actually going to review every single third-party NIL deal over $600, and they're going to determine if it is legitimately for business purpose. If it has a legitimate business purpose or not, it is not to be used specifically for pay to play. But I think that's one of the big caveats here of this new situation is they're going to have to submit these NIL third-party deals for this extra payments that we want to pay for student athletes to come to schools. And it's now going to go through a vetting process of whether or not this is a real business case as part of a sponsorship or NIL kind of deal for these student athletes. So I'll pause there, guys. I want to get your all's reaction to the settlement and what your thoughts are here for the future of collegiate sports.
I'm kind of undecided whether I think it's a good or bad thing because to me it's a way of the rich are going to get richer because if it's based on ticket sales, revenue, TV revenue, and other things, you're going to have people like the Alabamas, the Georgias.
Okay, you're talking about programs, get richer. Okay.
Yeah, who have larger in conferences.
Right. TV deals.
TV deals that always consistently sell out, and especially now how the ACC is doing their TV revenue, where it's based on a percentage of TV, how many times you're on TV and things like you get a bigger share of the money. So that cap is going to keep growing and growing, but for the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Clemsons, Florida States, that are going to be on TV more and more, they're going to have a bigger budget. And not to mention that, so they're going to be able to spend more to get the best players. Then you also got to figure
but they were doing that anyways with the NIL. They were doing
that anyway.
But now there's a cap on it, so maybe that helps.
But the cap is going to grow. But you could have teams like, for example, Duke, who's maybe sells their football stadium maybe $15,000 on average that they get. They're not going to get near as much money as say somebody like even Louisville who sells 50 to 45 to 50,000 tickets a game, or Clemson who sells 80,000 maybe it is. So there's going to be a distinct disadvantage there to them.
Well, but you're also of the mindset of the athletic department isn't making that much money. Like, you don't think that the Duke athletic department can make $20.5 million in a given year?
No, they can. There's no question about that. But if the cap keeps raising, is there? Not every team is. Say the cap raises to $25 million next year. Well, but not every school may be able to have. They still may be at $21 million because they didn't get 25.
Right, but they still get the money from the TV deals and all the advertising. Like they're still going to be able to make that money. I think this more or less impacts your MAC and your WAC and your mid-major football programs.
Yeah. And this could be all for none because I think what the SEC said 28, 29, they're going to break away from the NCAA anyway, their own conference.
Oh, hell, there's a whole nother topic to talk about right there.
So, but that's...
Yeah, so I think what we've got, right? So what we've got, guys, we have a pot of $20.5 million annually that the schools can directly revenue share with athletes, right? So, you would assume that money is most likely going to be shared across the main sports, right? You're talking about like basketball, football. The main money makers for the programs are probably going to receive the majority of that money. Well, then now you're talking about, especially these big conferences, where is the rest of the money going to come from for the other teams, the other athletes? So one example I want to use is Texas Tech softball. They have a girl who just broke into the seven figures. Yep. Seven figures for softball. Mm-hmm. That's one player on a softball team that's making $1 million, in which absolutely she deserves. She's a fantastic player. She probably deserves more, if just in terms of where she is from a capabilities perspective and how good she is across that sport. but because it doesn't drive as much revenue, there's not as much money there to support for it. But what I'm asking is, Louisville's this 502 collective, which was started, which, by the way, we have no affiliation with whatsoever. 502 Sports has been around longer than the 502 Circle it was even thought of. But I think in overall, like, their budget last year was around $20 million. They raised around $20 million to help pay and support student athletes, right? And now we're talking about one softball player on a big team, a big softball team that's going to make $1 million by herself. We're talking about, looking at guys like Shedeur Sanders from Colorado who had, huge NIL deals, right? So that money starts to add up really, really quickly. Mm-hmm. How are these schools and these NIL teams going to continue funding this, which kind of seems like a never-ending fundraising effort that's going to have to happen moving forward to get these kids to come to their universities?
Money. They're going to get them to come with money. There's walls set up. The NCAA has their wall set up, like you said. Is this a legitimate business transaction? Can you legitimately call this NIL?
Yeah, they're still going to be allowed to do it.
There's going to be ways around it. And there's still going to be under the table deals. Like your boosters still want you to have a national program, a nationally relevant program. There's still going to be ways around it, and they're still going to, tell these kids, hey, I know we're under the $20.5 million. Why don't you take $500,000 for yourself, and we'll figure out a way to get you the other two.
Yeah,
and they will, and they'll get it to them.
They're going to find it. They'll find ways. Yeah, they can still do the NIL. I think it is good to kind of set up that commission, the College Sports Commission, to have them look into that as well.
The NCAA's been a joke with all of this.
NCAA's been a joke since it was started back in who knows.
Well, but even more so, it's just been laughable right now.
It is.
It has been laughable. There's obviously plenty of talks about whether or not the NCAA even needs to exist. But I don't know. I'm hearing all of this. I'm shaking my head. I'm like, this is just ridiculous to me. Like, they're gonna pay these players to get them to come to the universities, plain and simple. And until you say, pay them what you want, or just to make a hard salary cap and just be like, look, this is the salary cap, and just don't go around it.
Probably the best way. The salary cap is kind of a good way,
right?
But
take out name, image, and likeness, and just. But then again, are they at that point? They're professional athletes?
They are.
Let's stop calling them amateur athletes then too.
So, but no, my thought also where you were talking about the Texas Tech softball player getting 7 figures, well deserved. So, how much does Title IX play into this too?
Well, there's that too.
So most schools, they would like to probably allocate 90% of that budget to football and men's basketball, which make the most money.
Right.
But legally, I don't know if that you could do that because you got to give. I don't remember the exact percentage, but Title IX, you got to be able to, spread it out.
You've got to treat your male and female athletes equally. Yes. And they should.
Absolutely.
And they are opening themselves up for lawsuits.
I agree. Yeah.
But if they're treating them more like contractors now, where they're treating them more like contractors, that's where it gets really fuzzy, kind of a gray area with Title IX of whether or not that's actually going to be upheld or not. Because they're basically what they're going to say is what is the highest revenue? Where is the highest revenue coming from? That's football, basketball. Where does the majority of the money then need to go from a business perspective? It needs to go back into those sports. So it's going to be really tough. I think one of the biggest things for me is I was reading this article about the NIL deals that exist last year. So basically what they're saying is that around 70% of the NIL deals that existed like this year would not have passed this new clearinghouse, because they are they did not define themselves with a legitimate business purpose for that NIL deal to support. And so the players and these businesses that are boosters who are going to be giving this money for players to come, they are going to have to make a better case. They're going to have to show the business value and how it relates to, whether it's a sponsorship deal, whether they're, talking for a car dealership or whatever it is. Like, they're going to have to put some actual business cases out there for these to actually qualify and pass. They have a company, Deloitte, who's going to be screening all of these applications through a new app called NIL Go. which is kind of a cool name. But they're going to have to submit that through this NIL Go platform, and it's going to have to be approved by Deloitte in this process as a legitimate business expense.
So my question is, the deals that were done June 5th and before, are those still in place? And did those get looked at?
I mean, I would assume they'd get grandfathered in, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this deal kind of took place from June 6th.
June
Anything
6th.
moving forward is going to have to comply with this, and that's why we see the 502 Circle has decided. I think we're going to see this with a lot of the collectives. Like the 502 Circle has transitioned into a marketing agency, so I would assume they're going to be probably promoting Louisville athletics. They're going to be doing some things to promote individual athletes, but they're no longer an NIL collective, right?
As a marketing, you could get away with, I feel like you have a lot more flexibility.
Yeah,
with
and it's going to
marketing.
give it's going to give the student athletes a legitimate business purpose
Correct.
to help them market for other companies. So they're transitioning that from a collective into this marketing agency. But I am curious if donors are going to continue long term. Somebody like Charles Barkley for Auburn, he recently said, "Hey, like I'm not giving that much every year. Like I've donated the money I want to donate to Auburn, but I am not. You're not going to come back to me every single year and ask me for another $5, $10, $20 million to donate to this NIL collective or to student athletes. I've given my money."
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
when you're looking at the results on the field, if you have guys you're donating, these business leaders and people who can donate that kind of money, and the product on the field doesn't result in winning national
there it is,
championships
yep.
or conference championships, then you get into a point of where is the line of when they're going to stop giving that money? When are they going to stop supporting this? And that's the challenge that every single institution is going to have moving forward, to keep those donors engaged and to put a product on the field that starts with the athletic directors, and starts with how they're going to spend that $20.5 million. Where is that going to go? Is it going to lead to more wins on the field?
And this is just, this is what happens when you open up, this big old can of worms of paying kids.
Almost
Like, 'cause
capitalism in a way. What are you worth? And
Sure, but at the same time, what happens when they don't perform?
exactly.
You know, what are they-
What recourse does the quote university have to somehow get their money back?
They
Right.
don't.
Or-
Or not even get their money
That's where
back. But they
signing
don't.
the contracts come into play on this, and
Well, but
the
you-
cap. I do like the cap idea, but I think you should also cap how much you could spend on a player. So they're then semi-professionals. Maybe it's 100,000, because that's
Sure.
to a college kid. 100 grand is a lot of money.
But they did that already. They 20, 30 years ago, they said no player can make money.
Yeah.
And people still found ways around
They
it. Like,
did.
They're
Yeah,
going to
you're
find
getting-
ways around it.
There's always going to be ways around it. And I have no problem on the side. What is, the marketing company worth? What do they think I'm worth? That's, I think, totally different if they want to do that. But the university could say, hey, I can only pay a maximum of $100,000 to a player, just nice round number. And then that way, no school, no university has an advantage by saying, hey, I can pay you $200,000 because I have a bigger budget. That brings back in a little bit of, not necessarily amateurism, but making it more of an even field where you can't buy wins or buy championships.
Well, in the end, you still have to play the game.
You do.
You still have to play the game. But that is going to come in. But then again, are you going to offer kids out of high school, X amount of dollars when there's transfer portal kids too? And I guarantee you, every single one of those kids in the mid majors, their goal is to play a year or two in the mid major, get playing time as a freshman, and then go to these Power 5 conferences looking for a payday.
But it's going to be even more difficult for those in the portal because of the reduced roster size limitations, the changes to the roster size. So, for example, football goes from 128 to 105, but all of those 105 players can now be scholarship players. They can give every single player a scholarship, whereas they were limited to 85 for football previously. So they can now extend these scholarships to all athletes instead of being kind of held to a cap on the number of scholarships they can provide.
And that's another thing. Like, are they really getting scholarships? Like, they're just, I hate that. I hate they give scholarships to athletes that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, where you have a kid who's a 4.0 student who studied his butt off all through high school, who earned an academic scholarship, who's earned the right to go to school and be debt free when he gets done or she gets done. But these athletes make this money, and we still say they're getting a full ride, a full scholarship. Why don't they just write that into their budget too?
They could. And you also know those athletes aren't having to do the same amount of work as the student who's there.
Well, and they get more help. I mean, they get
a lot
tutors.
more help,
They get all sorts of special treatment. I mean,
it's definitely
we're aware of that.
Yeah, I mean,
You go to North Carolina,
can go,
you get the tests. Anyways,
yeah. No, I mean, you can go get a tutor as a non-athlete, but yeah, they're definitely a lot more readily available. They probably have traveling tutors with every team, multiple traveling tutors with football and basketball, even baseball, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or any sports, it doesn't matter.
I don't know. I don't know about you boys. I'm skeptical. I still think there's going to be ways around this. Yes, they have to show that it's a legitimate business reason, but at the same time, there's going to be ways around it.
There is.
Right.
There are always going
There's
to be loopholes.
ways around it. There's going to be under the table handshakes. There's going to be backroom deals.
Later today, tomorrow, next week, there could be another judge that,
Yeah,
says
exactly.
nope. I'm putting a hold on this, and
the agents are not going to be doing these student athletes favors either, right? That's one of the problems too. Is you get mixed up with a bad agent who doesn't have the best interest of that student athlete involved. That's in a whole nother wrench to the situation. Is you kind of get these bad actors who are involved here, where they're trying to negotiate
family friends
on behalf of the player, and it's not really. There's just a lot of bad situations here. That could arise, which we've seen in the past already with agents. But is this the end of amateurism in college athletics?
I think
guess
that
is the
ended
question.
a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean,
whenever they started
difference-
playing, officially whenever the NIL started, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Whenever that was, I think that was truly
kids
the
were
end of it.
getting kids were getting paid.
They
to
were
play
getting
before
paid.
that.
They were getting paid before that, but I
Right.
believe that's truly the end of it.
Yeah, I think you can officially stop calling them amateur athletes.
Yeah, I do agree with you on the agents. I think on the pro sports side, they have to go be certified to be an agent.
Yeah,
I think
yes.
you need to start doing that for college as well, because there's been multiple times where players, their quote unquote agent said, "I can get you another $1 million, $2 million, so put it in the transfer portal," and it doesn't come to fruition. And next thing you know, their Tennessee quarterback, for example, is a perfect example of that. He was set to make $4 million at Tennessee, and now making just over maybe $1.5 to $2 million at UCLA when he thought he could get more.
Get a bigger
Right.
deal.
Yeah, in reality, he couldn't.
Sometimes it's not best to bite the hand that feeds you.
Yep, grass is not always greener on the other side.
Yeah, $4 million is a career.
Just greedy.
It's a great lifetime earning, $4 million.
Yes.
And,
Well,
man.
It is and it isn't, because then you have to, if you have an agent now, you're having to pay the agent, you're paying taxes right off the top, you're losing at least 25 to 40% potentially of that money. And then you're paying you have to pay all these other all these other people and support staff and social media and people who are promoting you to help you get more NIL deals. You're going to be paying these agencies like 502 Circle, who's now a marketing agency, you're going to have to pay. So how much of that are they actually going to pocket if they get a one-time $5 million payment from a school? They need financial help to manage that kind of money.
And that's where
financial advising.
Advising, and
right.
that's also where having a certified agent come into play, because he's saying $4 million coming out of Tennessee, where their taxes are not going to be as high as it is out in California, or $1.5 million out in California. You maybe net 800,000.
Sure, but that's
maybe
that's
probably
still more
less,
than
but
you and
that's-
I'll make in a year.
Oh, absolutely. But
They
then you
always
also got
say,
out of that 800,000, you still got to pay your agent. Then, so you may be seeing 700,000. You're seeing
more
half
money,
of
more
it.
problems, right? But at the same time,
That $4 million, you might
I'll
get
take it.
3.5 out of Tennessee. You don't have to pay. I don't know. I don't remember the exact tax. Whether it was income tax they don't have there, or, but you don't have to pay near as much taxes in Tennessee. So you're going to pocket a lot more money,
Right.
percentage wise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, either way, guys, I think that this is a major shift in how the money is managed, kind of shifting that responsibility in a large part to the schools and how they share that revenue, which is part of the initial lawsuit, which is giving back pay essentially to a huge number of athletes that think that they should have gotten, some sort of NIL money for when they were in school from, 2016 to 2024. So now the NCAA is basically saying, schools, it's on you. and we're hiring a third party to manage these new NIL payments. And so their hands are completely off at this point. They're saying, you guys take the wheel and figure it out on your own. We're just going to be setting the cap limits moving forward.
Long term, that's probably the best way to go about it. But along the way, you're going to have some bumps you gotta manage.
Well, yeah, you're going to have some athletes who feel they should get more than what they're actually going to get, but
in teams.
But in teams, yes,
right.
But
I mean, look at Louisville baseball, for example. I mean, like they're a low budget NIL team, right? But they've managed to keep some players and try to be scrappy with the money they have to keep some players, especially some of the local talent. But moving forward, how is that going to be managed? And each school is going to have to make decisions about how each program, especially the lower budget programs, are going to be managed moving forward. And we might see fewer programs across the board just because of budget limitations with that cap.
And that's a shame.
Yeah,
that's a shame.
All right, guys. Hey, great discussion. If you guys have any thoughts on the House versus the NCAA settlement, send us a message on 502 Sports on all of our social media outlets. We'd love to chat about it and get your feedback and maybe share it on a future one of our shows. Guys, at high school athletics, let's switch gears a little bit. We want to talk about the recent track and field state championships. This is for the 3A specifically. We had a couple teams that were from the 502 and ended up winning the team overall state championships. On the boys' side, we had Trinity High School, who ended up taking the 3A state track and field championship, scoring 77 total points to finish ahead of Mayo with 54 points and St. X with 52 points. Huge win for Trinity. I think it may be their first state championship in a while overall in track and field. What did you guys think of the Trinity High School performance here in winning the track state title?
Yeah, well, congratulations to Trinity. Kind of going through, they didn't win a lot, but they had a lot of guys up there, always second, third place to gain a lot of points. I think overall that would be the true definition of a team win, when you get everybody up there performing real high and getting some really good results. So it was well earned, and congratulations to them.
Yeah, it was just a total team effort. That's all you can really say. Like Adam touched on. They had the one gentleman, Rocco Pfeiffer, who won the discus throw, but other than that, he was the only
individual winner,
right?
Yes.
And so to be able to do that with one individual winner to still win the team overall,
by a good amount of points.
Yeah, and it was that was really awesome. Congratulations to those gentlemen. I know they put in a lot of hard work, and as did all the other student athletes as well. But congratulations to Trinity and to their coaching staff and on a great year.
Yeah, just to share kind of the way that they spread the points out over the state championship. So they got 19 points in the relay events, 17 points in distant events, 17 points in sprints, 14 points in jumps, and 10 points in the throwing event. So really diversified their team effort here to win the overall team title, which was really, really cool for a team from the 502. So congratulations to the Rocks. We do also want to shout out here to the Assumption Rockets, who took home the girls 3A state championship, beating out North Oldham and Mayo High School, who finished second and third. Assumption really ran away with this one, quite literally. They had 85 total points, which was huge, over North Oldham in second place that had 53 points. But just a huge win for the head coach, Barry Holwath. Sorry, I always pronounce his name wrong there, but he's led this team since I think around 1999 is when he joined Assumption.
Oh, wow.
To help lead this team, but really brought them back. They've won a lot of individual titles over the last few years, with some, especially in the distance side. But this was really, really a big win for Assumption to win the overall team title after Manual has actually won 4 straight in a row. To come back and take the team title here on the girls' side.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of what Trinity did. They had five event wins and really, like you said, just ran away with it. But congratulations to Assumption. That's definitely well earned.
Yeah, it will. And like you said, they had 5 individual wins. I know Looking here, Leah Pennick, she won both the 1600 and the 3200
Yeah.
meter race. Mabel George won the 800 meter race and coincidentally set the new 3A and overall state record.
Amazing, yeah.
Wow. Great for her.
Kylie Moore won the high jump at 5 feet 4 inches. So, and they also won the 4x800 relay. So unlike Trinity where they had one individual winner,
Yeah.
Assumption dominated the podium.
Yeah.
So congratulations to the Rockets, ladies. Well done. Congratulations on all your hard work, and thanks for making the 502 proud.
Do it again next year.
Absolutely. That was their first state championship as a team since 2014 was the last time they won the state championship. So congratulations to the Rockets. Guys, let's talk about high school baseball a little bit here. So we've got the state tournament is underway for the baseball side, and this is all taking place in Lexington, just like the softball tournament is taking place in Lexington as well. But we've got two powerhouses from the 502 that are back in the state tournament. We've got PRP, Pleasure Ridge Park, and Trinity, who are both making kind of deep runs in the tournament. What are your all's thoughts on those two teams' chances to win the overall state title?
I mean, it's hard not to look at a juggernaut like Trinity with their offensive output and just think that they're going to be favored in every game they've got.
Well,
So-
that, and I mean, I think they played Taylor County yesterday, won 6-2.
Yeah.
Taylor County's pitcher Cole McLean, he was named Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Kentucky, and hadn't lost a game all year. Trinity handed him his first loss of the year.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Oh,
Some of this kid's stats are ridiculous.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, coming in, he had a
Yeah.
0.12 ERA. 0.12. That's
That's
not
insane.
there's no one at the beginning of that
Right.
ERA.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Right. In a 9-inning game, he's going to give up 0.1 run.
Yeah.
He had only surrendered 1 run in 57 innings this
Yeah.
year. 117 strikeouts in 57 innings. For those of you that don't know, that are having a hard time math that, he averaged 2 strikeouts an inning. He's a University of Tennessee commit as a junior. Just unbelievable numbers this year. He had a tremendous junior campaign. But like we said, Trinity's offense was able to tag him for 3 runs in the first inning, and they never looked back. They were able to get out of a bases-loaded jam early on in the game, and they ended up taking the win 6-2. So congratulations again to Trinity. I feel like we say that a lot on this show, but congratulations to Coach Arnold, and we'll be rooting for the 502 all the way.
Yep.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
they got that big win in the opening round over Meade County, and then took out Taylor County 6-2, as you mentioned, over the best pitcher in the state. Cole McLean, absolutely the best pitcher in the state as of right now. But they actually play on Friday, June 13th. They're going to be playing the winner of Boyd County and Wolfe County. That one's still to be determined. I think is played. Actually, getting ready to have the opening pitch here as we speak and record our podcast here, and then. On the other side, we have another 502 team. It's actually the defending state champions, PRP. They're currently in the quarterfinals. They're going to be playing today at 4 o'clock against Spencer County to try to make it to the semifinals here as well. They defeated Corbin 10-3. Defending state champions, guys. It's hard to bet against these guys, and another really powerful team in the 502.
To be the team, woo!
You
You
gotta
gotta
beat
beat the team.
Yes.
So defending state champs, and everybody can that's been around 502 knows PRP is synonymous with baseball.
Yep.
They are a perennial juggernaut. So they're definitely going to be a tough out.
Yeah, no, as a Braden Burner, I think he's led the team in offense. He went 2 for 3 in the first round game. Hit triple, got two RBIs going in that game as well. He signed with Bellarmine to play at Bellarmine next year.
Yeah,
that's
go
great.
Knights.
Yeah.
That's great.
So they're gonna be tough. They're not gonna be an easy out by any means.
So I know we talked about this a little bit pre-show, but they were the ones that kind of they had a really big battle early on against DeSales, to make it to move on here. So I think that was a huge win.
Yeah, I was
over
at
a good
game.
DeSales team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a nephew that plays for DeSales, so I was actually fortunate enough to be out at Jim Patterson to watch that game. And I mean, I was rooting for DeSales, but it's okay for me to switch to PRP now that they're representing the 502 in this Kentucky baseball tournament. But it stung a little bit. It did. It stung a little bit. My nephew was a senior. He's now, graduated, and, his high school playing days are over. So that was kind of tough to watch. But, good luck to Coach Burns as, his squad tries to navigate their way to another state title.
Absolutely. So we're wishing the Trinity Rocks and the PRP Panthers the best of luck as they continue in the baseball state championships. And we'll definitely have an update on 502 Sports and across all of our social platforms there when those games go final later today for PRP. On the softball side, guys, so we just finished up some of the opening rounds of the softball state tournament. Excuse me. And the last remaining team from the 502 is the Assumption Rockets. I know we just talked about them winning state in the track and field, but the Assumption Rockets are making a huge run in the state softball tournament as well. They took down a really good Oldham County team to open up the tournament in the first round. They beat them 4-2. It was actually our 502 Sports. We had our play of the week was Lauren Satterley, who made an incredible double play. You could check out that highlight on our 502 Sports socials. It was a bunt attempt in the first inning by Oldham County. The ball kind of got in the air a little bit, and Lauren Satterley made an incredible diving play to get the second out of the inning, and then immediately went to third to get the double play, which really kept some runs off the board for Oldham County. So a huge win there over Oldham County. And they have a lot of momentum moving forward in the softball tournament. What are your all's thoughts here on Assumption moving forward? And they do have to play Harrison County, which is a good team, at 3:30 today at John Krupp Stadium in Lexington.
Yeah, no, Assumption earned it. Oldham County is a good team. I think they were going into the tournament at the time 31-6. They had a great year. Oldham County, that is. But yeah, they just outplayed them that game, and hope they can continue on and
and they're going to be
moving
playing
forward.
They're going to be playing another 6-loss team in Harrison County.
Right.
They're not going to have an easy path there. No easy wins.
On paper, Assumption looks like the better team. Harrison County looks like they have the 17th seed. So on paper, it looks like Assumption should win this, but you just never know. We'll be rooting for the Rockets and. Their coach, Coach Kate. We wish you guys the best of luck. Hopefully, you ladies can keep advancing and do the 502 proud, do Louisville proud.
Absolutely. Another shout out to the third team from the 502 that was in this tournament, Bullitt East High School. Along with Assumption and Oldham County, did qualify for the state tournament. They unfortunately lost the opening game to Scott County 3-2, but we had three teams from the 502 representing in the softball state championship. So good luck to Assumption as they continue their quest for a state championship. And gentlemen, we've got the NCAA. We're going to go back a little bit, backtrack towards the NCAA collegiate athletics again here. And the NCAA track and field national championships are going to be held June 11th through the 14th. The Cards have a lot of participants on the men's and the women's side. What are you all looking forward to the most here on for the track and field championships? There's a couple really big athletes here that I think we should follow. So you've got Jaden Ulrich, who is the shot put and discus thrower. She's qualified in both events. And then on the men's side, KJ Bird is one guy that I'm really looking at. He's a freshman, but he actually achieved the 11th best point total in the nation in the decathlon, and he finished runner-up in the ACC as a freshman. So huge on both sides. I think the women are ranked in the top 25 still. The men, I think they're just outside the top 25. But what are you guys looking forward to the most here in the NCAA track and field outdoor championships?
Well, strong performances, obviously, but hopefully some wins along the way, too, would be nice. Hopefully Mr. Burns can, continue to have a great season and get on the podium, and if not, win it.
Yeah, I think ultimately winning kind of seeing whether it's individual championships or even a team event. I think that'd be the ultimate goal, but just go out there and set, go out there, have fun, and do as well as you can, realistically. Jaden Ulich, if I'm saying that correctly.
Ulich,
Her, I could see looking for her to have probably the best performance out of everybody. Was setting multiple records this year for her and for the university. Looking for bigger things from her probably than anybody else.
Yeah, we've got quite a few athletes here that are going to be participating. I mentioned KJ Bird in decathlon. He finished second place in the ACC championships. Well, his teammate Paul Kalenberg won the ACC championships in the decathlon. So we guys, that is one event I really love to see. All these guys participating in the decathlon as well. Just so many different events, and basically what you're doing is you're trying to place as high as you can in each one of the events, and ultimately that reflects into your scoring overall in the standings. So guys, we've got some really, really good athletes on both the men's and women's side for the Cards in the outdoor NCAA championships. So stay tuned to that on June 11th through the 14th. And we definitely are going to be supporting our Cards as they take on and go into the national championship event here. One other update we want to kind of switch gears to soccer for a second. We have to give an update here on Louisville City and Racing Louisville. Both are really at points of the season where they're playing really, really well. Louisville City is now undefeated to start the season in the league. They have gone undefeated for 11 straight games to start the year. And Racing Louisville has now won 4 of 5 matches to move into playoff contention in the NWSL. What are you all looking forward to the most for either Louisville City or Racing Louisville at this point of the year?
Well, I think you're definitely wanting Racing Louisville to get to the playoffs. You know, we had talked earlier, Adam. They had never made a run to the playoffs before. The NWSL, they take the top 8 teams to go to the playoff, and as currently stands right now, Racing Louisville sits 6th. And winning, these last few games and being able to climb the standings, I would like for them to see to build some momentum, keep climbing the stands, so that when the end of the season comes around, they're not looking at that cut line wondering if they're going to make it. Yeah. Obviously it would be great for them to make it, but I also don't want them to be satisfied by just making the playoffs. They're obviously good enough to make headway. And to compete with some of these top-level clubs. Yeah. So, not only make the playoffs, but get some wins under their belt as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'd love to see Racing make the playoffs here. One thing, I think Louisville as a city is very soccer, forward. They love their soccer here.
We've got great soccer.
Strong fan base here. Yes. Yeah. And really love to see the women make the playoffs for the first time. I think that'd be fantastic, and I know we would, by chance we're lucky enough to get a home game, we'd be out there supporting them. The stadium would be at capacity, I guarantee it. Yeah. And then for Lou City, I feel like it's getting back to where they belong in the championship game. There was a good stretch for, was it 4 out of 5 years or something? I don't remember the exact stretch, but they were in the championship game or Final Four for.
Yeah, they had a lot of success getting deep in the playoffs. Yeah,
and
they've really dominated the Eastern Conference.
Getting back
really well.
They kind of set a standard, I feel like, and that's almost to be expected now.
Well, yeah, like
Lou City.
I know the Lou City games that I've been lucky enough to go to. Take the kiddos out, and you want to have a good time, but we also expect to win the games. Yeah. And that's a good feeling, when you go out there, thinking, yep, they're going to get a win. They're going to get a win. And it's surprising when they get a loss. That's a good feeling. That lets you know that they want to win, obviously, as much as I do. But then you have a good product to go and watch, too.
Yeah, that makes it a lot more enjoyable.
It's hard for fans to turn out for a team that doesn't put wins up on the board.
Yeah.
And that's any sport. That's any sport. You're not going to see a whole lot of people coming out to a 100-loss baseball team or something like that. So it definitely is able to get fans out to the games more and more and more when they're winning. But it also feels good to actually watch a winning team.
Absolutely.
I think it is especially important in Louisville too. I think that Louisville fans are. They want to win. They want to see want to see a good quality on the field, a good product. What I will say right now is Racing Louisville is doing a great job of getting points where they can. So they've won 4 out of the last 5 games. Every time you get a win, that's 3 points towards the standings in the NWSL. They've just got to continue to collect points the rest of the year. If they have to have a draw with somebody, so be it. There are some really good teams in this league. But when you have an opportunity to win moving forward the rest of this year, you have to take advantage of it and get those points if they want to make the playoffs. Yeah. This league is super competitive. Any team can beat any other team on any given night. One of the things I really love about racing this year is that everybody is contributing. So if you look at the game on Friday night, you had Ellie Jean, who is one of our center backs. She scored her first ever professional goal off of a beautiful cross and finished like she was a striker up top. We also had one of our forwards, Sarah Weber. She is a rookie this year out of Nebraska. She scored her first ever professional goal as well. So we're getting goals and we're getting contributions from everybody on the field, which is resulting in 4 out of 5 wins, right? And so we're seeing that kind of build. The winning mentality is getting there. And then on the Louisville City side, I'll just add this. I think this streak that they've had has been completely different from last year. Last year we were outscoring opponents.
What do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, we led the league last year in goals scored.
Okay.
This year, the way that we're winning is much different. We're not outscoring teams by 4 goals. We are getting some goals early, and then we're playing really solid defense. We've allowed the fewest goals in the league so far, and we're really being a much more defensive team this year than we were last year. We did lose our starting striker forward last year, Wilson Harris, who transferred out at the end of last season. And so we're having to find other ways to win. And this is a real transition kind of year for the team of we're not going to outscore everybody every game by 3 or 4 goals.
Right.
We're going to have to score some goals, put that energy out on the field, especially in the first 45 minutes, and then play some defense, which is what they did against Tampa Bay last night at Lynn Family Stadium. So just a totally different approach this year, especially in second halves for Louisville City.
To be on the sports topic, but not, kind of switch gears a little bit on the soccer side of things. Whenever they're bringing up the relegation and promotion here,
right?
Is this something that Lou City can get promoted to MLS for the fans out there that don't know? Like, is this something in the next couple of years when they implement it? Can we see Lou City enter MLS?
So it's not. No. So it's completely separate from Major League Soccer. So basically what is going to happen, and it's been approved by they've gotten approved as a league. So the USL is separate from Major League Soccer. Right. So the USL has gotten approved to be a first-tier league, in the United States. And so basically what's going to happen now is we will have 2 leagues that are considered first tier. So we'll have Major League Soccer and we'll have USL. So what we're hearing right now, and I think it all still needs to be confirmed, but Louisville City is supposed to be added to that top tier along with some of the other USL championship level teams in that league. They're going to be added to that top tier to start the initial seasons. And I believe that's in 2026. I have to go back and look. 2026 or 2028. Right. I feel like it's 26. But what's going to happen is then the USL is going to implement promotion and relegation. So if you finish in the bottom tier of in the standings, you're going to get relegated down to the lower league. So it would be like, for people here locally, it would be like the Cincinnati Reds getting relegated to AAA is basically what would happen. And then you have the next season, you have to win that league in order to go back up to the top flight to the first tier.
Is it so in order to get promoted, is it win the league, or can you finish like top 2, top 3 and still get promoted?
So I think those details are still to be determined, but I would assume it's going to be very similar to the European style where you have the top 2 teams, the top 2 or 3 are going to get promoted, and then the bottom 2 or 3 are going to get relegated. But there's a lot there is dependent on how they set this up and want to structure it. But it would be the first ever implementation of promotion and relegation in U.S. across any sport.
So if you have the team that finishes 5th win the USL championship, would they automatically get promoted for winning the championship?
Yes. In that scenario, yes. If they were to win the second tier championship, they would then move up and get promoted to the top year next year, which means likely they would get more investment, they'd get more sponsors, they could buy more players.
Yeah, they could offer players better.
And it would get them a lot more coverage and just income.
Yeah, second tier, if you finish first, you probably automatically get promoted, but if the team finishes fourth or fifth
second.
wins the championship, they also get promoted. So you could have 2 promotions, and then the bottom 2 teams fall out.
So so the way the soccer
right?
it depends on how they structure the playoffs and or standings, right?
Yeah.
So if they
Okay.
if they decide that they're going to have a playoff like all American style sports have, then you're going to have to win the playoff. But there's some situations like in the English Premier League or the championship level. They actually in the championship level, the second tier in English soccer, they actually have a playoff to determine who the last teams that qualify to go up are. So there's a lot of things that are still yet to be determined on how this is going to work. But we know that Louisville City is going to be involved in that, and it's going to be the first time ever in American sports that we have promotion and relegation similar to what they do in Europe.
So to my little nephew who is listening to this, or hopefully listening to this, no, Leo Messi will not be coming to Lynn Family Stadium anytime soon. He was asking me that because he was learning about this relegation and promotion system, and he said, "Hey, does that mean that the USL, the top couple finishers from the USL get promoted to MLS?"
Right.
And if they do, could Leo Messi possibly come to Lynn Family? And I was like, buddy, I don't think that's work, but I was I can ask about it. We can talk. So
You got to have a merger.
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah, exactly, Adam. So we'll see what happens, right? So if I think that what's going to happen is the MLS is going to kind of see, is this a threat, right? Like, is this a threat to our dominance as the premier soccer league in North America, in the U.S., or is it not? And I think the first year or so is really going to determine how successful this USL is going to be in this new promotion and relegation battle. But I do think there's just a lot of money out there. MLS is a very rich and very successful at what they do right now. So I think we'll kind of see how that goes. But I do want to say Lynn Family Stadium this Wednesday, June 11th at 8:00. Louisville City plays Rhode Island, a really, really tough team. I hope everybody gets out to support them as they face a really good team on Wednesday night. That should be a really good one. And then on Saturday, June 14th, so next weekend, Racing Louisville is going to be playing the KC Current at Lynn Family Stadium on Saturday night as well. So those 2 really good games coming up this week. Louisville City's back pretty much at home for a home stand here over the next 3 games.
And if anybody's looking for any events to take your kids to during the summer, these soccer games are relatively, priced. They are not going to break the bank if you want to take the whole family.
Yeah.
They are a lot of fun. The entertainment aspect is there. Players will go around and sign autographs after games, take pictures. It's very, very interactive. It is a lot of fun. If you have time, obviously, over the summer, get your kids out to the game. Let them go see a soccer game. It's a really fun environment.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Take a family of 4 out there is pretty inexpensive, so it's a good way to get out, enjoy some family time, and watch some good soccer.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, hey, one heck of a show. Thank you all for being here. We want to thank you all for listening to us. We also want to shout out to our friends again at Take Tie for their support of 502 Sports. Check out our 502 Sports promo codes on our social media. For Jimmy Nolan, Adam Wilkinson, I am your host, Adam Hitt, wishing you a great weekend of 502 Sports action. Thanks for listening and have a great week.